Hello, thank you for your interest in Trigon mining. We are copper and silver mine developer. We've got assets in Africa, in Morocco, and Namibia, and we think arguably some of the best mining jurisdictions in the world. Let's get right into it. The customary disclosures. Highlight the board of directors. Dai Kaba, a lawyer with a lot of experience in Africa. David Shaw, a structural geologist and actually former director of First Majestic Mining. Larissa Sprott, the president of Sprott Money, silver and gold bullion retailer, also daughter of Eric Sprott, and Stefan Theron, former CEO and portfolio manager at Liberty Mine Finance. Myself, Jed Richardson. I am a mine engineer by training. I spent time as a research analyst with RBC Capital Markets and Sprott Securities, or Cormark, and been working in projects in Africa and Brazil over the past 10 years. Quickly on the gold-silver ratio, it's not something I need to go into length on, but the real thing is that silver has a long way to go just to get back to a more usual ratio with the gold price, and we don't think that gold is going to slow down here either with all the easing. Copper, I think is the real surprise in all of what's happened through this pandemic. We knew that supply was short, and that's evident now. But we are seeing strength in copper as countries on the other side of the pandemic, like China, have started to use infrastructure spending as a way to mobilize their economies, and that's boded well for copper price. Our first project that I'll highlight is our Silver Hill project in Morocco. This is a project where we are in the Anti-Atlas region. We're about 150 kilometers from the Imiter mine, which is one of the world's largest silver producers. We have geologically, we are finding lenses of mineralization in a Cambrian age sandstone, and we've now identified what we think are 3 different layers, and we're looking to follow that up over the length of our property and recognize, hopefully build up a pretty substantial deposit, and we have all the evidence for that. We also have another property called Tamdult. This is also in the Anti-Atlas. This is a blind target, but both projects were identified by slags that we discovered at surface, and there's extensive slag deposits at Tamdult, and we'll be following that up with geophysics later this year. We were initially, what got us excited were samples that we found at surface. Like I said, there's 3 structures. This is actually the uppermost here at the bottom of your page. In this, we are finding high-grade silver and copper. So silver grades from 200 to 750 grams per ton, associated with copper from 3% to 10% copper. On the other structures, we are finding notable silver grades around 200 grams per ton, with copper grades up to 12.5%. We followed that up with some drilling. We drilled holes on the uppermost structure. We had an underpowered rig, but it was able to intercept the mineralization all very shallow within 30 meters of the surface. What we're seeing is a very high grade lens at about 2.5 meters thick, and grading 266 grams per ton silver with 3.9% copper. But we're also seeing a mineralized halo around that in the sandstone that's over 1% copper and 70 grams silver. And now we'll be following that up with some drilling of our own with properly powered rigs. And we have 6 holes planned for October at 150 meters each. Testing this mineralization and seeing if we can find the relationship between this structure and the other structures that we've identified on the property. To note, just in this past week, we were out sampling on the main upper structure. We had recognized workings 2 kilometers to the east of where that initial drilling took place, and further and a further 1.5 kilometers to the east, really extending this whole mineralized layer. And we've taken samples here that we're going to have analyzed to see if this mineralization matches what we were seeing over here. So expect those results shortly. In fact, we may have them by the time the conference begins. Our second project is the Kombat mine in Namibia. This is a historic mine with where 12.5 million tons of ore were recovered at over 2.6% copper, with 1% lead and about 20 grams silver. But we really see the potential of this mine as much more than this, and in that all in what lies ahead of it. So there's a lot of great infrastructure here. There's an existing mill, but we're looking at a project that we think dwarfs the existing mill, and really shows this as a powerful standalone asset. Just to remind you, the Kombat mine was part of the Tsumeb complex. I believe it was initially built by Anglo American, and was the high-grade contributor to a number of mines that were all around a central mill. Central smelter. We feel that the mine was never, the full potential of the mine was never addressed as a standalone operation, and we've already been able to materially demonstrate that the best days of the mine still lie ahead of it. We went through the historic underground drilling, the mine development drilling, added almost 4,000 new drill holes to the database, went through, validated that with and verified it against more recent drilling that was done from surface, and we were able to increase the global resource from 7 million tons to 39 million tons. To put that in context, 12.5 million tons were mined for over 45 years here, and we still have a new 39 million tons ahead of us. Just to show you what that resource looks like, a big part of that is an expanded open pit that we've planned, with between indicated resources of 7.3 million tons at 1% copper, and 10 million tons of inferred at 1%. We've added, we have now a global resource of 20 million tons of open pittable copper ore. And underground, we've gone from just 5.5 million tons of underground resource historically to now 20 million tons at almost 3% copper, 2.84 to be exact. Just to note here, in that historic drilling, there was no assays taken for silver. So all of the tons that we have added have been at 0 silver. So I'll point to some of the historic silver grades, as those will probably be indicative of what we'll see when we do get in there and mine. So at Kombat, that 12.5 million tons and really now the 39 million tons all occur in 4.2 kilometers of strike length. We have a full strike length of our property of 6 kilometers, and we've and drilling has already indicated that the mineralization extends past the western extent of what we have. We had a drill hole at around 2% copper over 13 meters, 1.5 kilometers west of the existing resource envelope. But we have now expanded our area across the entire Atavi Basin, and we think there's evidence that the mineralization extends the full length of that basin. What we identified earlier I guess late last year, was that there's a shear structure that seems to be dominating where we were finding high-grade copper mineralization. And that actually cuts across the basin on an oblique angle, and gives additional potential to how we can grow this deposit. So the existing resources here in that 4.2 kilometers or 6 kilometers of our historic claim area. We added this area, and we are in negotiation to actually consolidate the entire basin as resource ground, and we think there's a potential for all of this area to be mineralized. So really, we see the full potential of the Atavi Valley is well beyond anything that was done historically, and we're demonstrating that right now. But even with what we've done just through readdressing the historic work, we can see that this is a much larger mine, and we'll be working on the engineering studies to tap that potential in the coming months and years. So that's the Trigon story. Sorry, this is just a geological map, a regional map showing the trends in the Tsumeb complex and where we are at Kombat. But going into our capital structure, we have we actually have just completed a financing at 35 cents of $5 million. So we issued an additional 14 million shares. We had participation from management and our largest shareholder, Eric Sprott. We're also consolidating our ownership of completing the acquisition of our Moroccan property. So I'll have an updated share structure at the time of this presentation, but you can see where we are as at Trigon, with significant institutional involvement, but really and significant management involvement as we grow this project, and a lot of news ahead of us in the coming months. Exploration at Silver Hill in Morocco, and then the resource expansion at Kombat. Here, thanks for your attention.